Welcome. We have another fantastic conversation set up today. This is Lauren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, and today's topic is empower clients, elevate your practice, how spend management advisory will drive growth. And I'm going to be speaking with Dan Luthi today. You are in the right place if you're interested in boosting clients' profitability, how to offer more strategic advice to your clients, and generating a new stream of revenue that expands your service offerings. I suggest you have pen and paper ready because Dan is going to be generous, sharing a lot about how this is going to impact your firm and elevate your clients. And we'll also let you know how you connect with him as we wrap up. A little bit about Dan Luthi. He's a partner at Ignite Spot Accounting and has over a decade of experience providing accounting services to small businesses across the U.S. He focuses on process development, systems management, customer care, and business development to serve client needs. Dan participates on software councils. He leverages these partnerships and certifications to help his clients connect accounting insights to personal as well as business goals. And you can learn more about Dan and Ignite Spot Accounting at ignitespot.com. Dan, please, I'm so excited about this conversation because I'm going to learn from you as well. I would really like to find out more, though, about how you moved in this direction about spend management and the impact that you've seen, why it really lights you up.
Yeah, definitely. No, I appreciate you letting me come on and talk a little bit about this topic. It really is something that's near and dear to my heart. And I think the reason why is for years, we've always been really focused with clients on historical work, things that have happened in the past, chasing receipts, documents, and things from that nature. And we found in our organization that it really wasn't helping our clients make better business decisions faster. And so we started diving into a couple of different software platforms that focused more on preparing the business for spend and preparing the business to be able to make better decisions. And it kind of opened into this new opportunity around spend management, which is just changed the way that we interact with our customers on how they utilize their credit cards.
And can you give a real easy to follow description of what spend management is so we're all on the same page here?
Yeah, definitely. Spend management is the proactive process of organizing your client's financial outflow. And so really the focus of that is utilizing technology to budget on what your company should be spending in different sectors or different organizations so that you can be able to have better controls.
Okay, so it's really given them some insights. And when you're working with these clients, I know that there's all degrees of people that have financial insights into their business and how the money works, and then ones that really have been making solid businesses, 6-7 figures, but they don't really understand the cash flow. So does this apply to someone who doesn't have that financial awareness, as well as the people who are really very business-minded and financially savvy?
Absolutely. It covers both sides of it. We find with the clients that we work on this with or do implementations with, that no matter where they're at in their knowledge or their understanding of financials as a whole, they all want to have better control over where their money goes. And so this gives us an opportunity to be able to leverage those types of conversations with them. If they're extremely savvy, we can have deeper discussions about affecting margins and where they can improve controls and feature sets from there. If they don't, we can dive into conversation with them about giving access to people or limiting access to people who have access to resources so that they're more in control as the business owner of what the net amount is being paid out. And so we really can cater the conversation to match their specific needs based off of their education and understanding.
Okay, so part of what I'm hearing is that it's very proactive in the approach because it's not just the after the fact, it's really looking future and making better business decisions as a result of that. And the other part of it is that you're actually educating them about how the money works in their business as they're looking to achieve some type of specific outcome. Does that sound about right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, our goal really is to give them better understanding of where their money's going and how they can control it better. 100%.
And is there a difference between spend management and expense management?
Yes, I get asked this question all the time. Expense management is the act of chasing down receipts, in my opinion. This is us going in and fetching information based off of charges that have already happened historically. It's really more of a reactive process, whereas spend management has some similarities, but it's a proactive process. You're actually putting rules and systems in place to help to be able to curb spend and to be able to manage it versus finding out 4 or 5 weeks later what has happened and then updating the financials from there.
And I love hearing about client examples, the impact that this has. Can you share maybe a particular client that was, moving their business forward, but this wasn't really in control and they didn't have that much
Yeah.
insights and the impact that happened as a result of this, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes the best examples are the examples that we have in our own lives and in
Mm-hmm.
our own situations. So I'll use our firm and our organization as a great example of this, and I can share other client experiences as well if people want to know. But years ago, when we were looking at diving into this, one of the things we found is our technology budgets were getting really out of hand. We moved from being a physical office to a virtual office, and we were finding that money was just being spent in a whole lot of different areas, and we really didn't know in some cases what it was for. And so we decided as a leadership team that we wanted to put better controls in place so that we knew exactly how much was being spent and on which types of expenses. And so we pulled a review of all our financial information. We dove through all the reoccurring vendors that we had. We determined which ones we needed or didn't need, and we put them on what we call is a virtual card. These virtual credit cards is actually a way to assign a credit card number through an online platform to a specific expense or a specific vendor. And so it's very similar to the credit card you carry in your wallet, but it's designated for a set amount or a set person. This gave us the ability to be able to assign those to our vendors that we work with so that we didn't exceed budgets that we wanted to, but also allowed us to cancel services that we no longer needed. The best part about this is it gave us visualization every month on how much we were spending in different areas of our business. We were able to look and understand how much we were spending on gifts and incentives for our employees. We were able to better understand how much we were spending on software platforms and other miscellaneous things like that. And so it really created an opportunity for us to be in control. And honestly, for someone who gets excited about technology, held me accountable to the rest of the people in the organization. So I wasn't going over budget on what I was spending versus just buying things that were just exciting to me at the time.
Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate that example. Would you actually suggest for the firm owners that are listening to us that they maybe apply it first to their firm to get some insights and some real hands-on experience before rolling this out to their clients?
Yeah, firsthand experience is always some of the best sales tactics, in my opinion. When you really understand how valuable it is to your organization, the better it is to be able to communicate it to your clients. And when you go through the trickiness of figuring it out, it also is going to help you to be able to make sure that you really know how to onboard very quickly and you can produce and show value for it.
And do you feel that there are maybe a certain type of business or client that spend management might be a best fit for, or is this something that applies across the board and everybody can benefit from it?
Yeah, we as an organization are generalists, so we don't focus on a specific niche or anything like that. And we have found that any of our clients that we work with are good examples or good opportunities for this. And what I mean by that in a lot of cases is whether you're a medical practice and you have reoccurring vendors that you're paying every single month on your credit card for, you can create virtual cards and you can create details for that to where if something happens with one of your other cards, like it gets stolen or lost, we don't have to impact the entire flow of the organization for that. The same thing happens with our construction clients that we work with, where we have people who are out in the field and purchasing materials for different things. If they know how much they can spend or have available for each of their projects they're on, they're going to be more proactive in making sure they're mindful of the amount that they're spending, plus also giving you receipts and context around it because they get a notification on their phone. And then, of course, we as professional service organizations, we're a great fit for it as well, too, because we always have reoccurring expenses and it's usually more than one or two. And so we can designate those virtual cards to different vendors to be able to make sure that we don't go over subscription amounts, that if we end up going over limits, that we're getting notified of it before charges come through. It just helps to be able to make sure that no matter what business you're in better control.
And it sounds like when there's more complexity, maybe more people need to have access to money, credit cards, then it really gives you more awareness of the different ways it's being used. And so once someone's aware that maybe someone in the team is spending more than they ought to be or than everybody else on the same, how do they start approaching that so that they curb it and really rein it in?
Yeah, no, I love this question because the example that I love sharing with people is about a marketing company that we did that we implemented a spend management system with. We ended up actually implementing Divvy or bill, spend, and expense with them. And what we were finding with them is that they had three different sectors of their business that were working on different projects together. And what we found with that is that oftentimes the project leads didn't talk to each other about what was being spent. They only focused on their specific narrow view of what was happening with the project. So in this situation, we actually created a global project or a global budget for each of the projects and gave access to all three departments and all three people that were making and choosing expenses for it. This allowed them to be able to be more mindful because them as a team were visually seeing the whole budget versus just seeing a small amount. The best part about it is they were actually able to find in their own situations places where they could actually use the same vendor in crossing each different department. And so instead of having one vendor do this and one vendor do this, they found they could get better deals from the same vendor that bridged both of the different sectors they were in. And they were able to save more money and they were able to end up putting better margins towards the company because of it.
And I'd like to ask you another specific question because what's coming up for me and that you mentioned has to do with the real estate. So there's a lot of people out there that are real estate investors and they might be flipping houses where they have several projects going on at one time and that their crew is using one credit card for different, for the different projects. So it makes a nightmare for whoever's doing the accounting. How would this start to curb in something like that?
Yeah, definitely. The nice thing about using these platforms, whether it's Ramp or Divvy or Brex or something like that, is they actually give you the ability to be able to utilize classes or departments or jobs, just like you do in your general accounting, general ledger tool. And so when the charges are being run, you can select those as a part of the association or the budget that it's going to. You can also set individual budgets for each of those types of properties as well. And so for the real estate example, and we have several clients that fall into this area, they have project managers or they have property managers that are working on each of those pieces. And they give them a direct amount that they can spend on that location. And they're required to submit receipts and context for it.
Mhm.
This allows them to control the amount that they potentially are spending so it doesn't go above and beyond, but also it contains all of the expenses that are associated with that property into the same budget so that they don't have to chase it later on. So it's a really great tool for that.
I can really see how this is solving a very specific challenge that accounting professionals might have when they're doing the books. They're trying to be able to get everything accurate to be able to close out at month end. So if somebody is really interested in this and can see that this is a solution to a problem they've been struggling with, how do they get started?
Definitely. The first thing, of course, is learning a little bit about the platforms and tools. I think those are some of the easiest ways to get into learning more about it. Tools like Divvy and Brex and Ramp, they really have great context about helping you just to get started in your own organization, but also how to have conversations with your clients about it. The next big thing for me with this, and this is where I always recommend to any of the people who are on our team who are just getting started or other firms that I talk to, look at your clients that have reoccurring transactions, people who have a lot of expenses that are coming through their organization on a regular basis that sometimes have issues reissuing credit cards if something gets lost or stolen. this is a great opportunity for you to be able to add things like virtual cards or create small budgets for people in the organization, so that they can be able to put a little bit tighter reins around how much things are going and or how long those contracts that they're spending with those providers. And so just diving into things like that and assessing your client needs, or bringing up flags of this expense looks high, how can we fix it, really is a way to get started and kind of dive into learning more.
So part of what I'm hearing for getting started is become aware of the different credit cards that are out there, the Ramp, Divvy, and Brex. You want to be able to understand how to be able to navigate these conversations with your clients. So now they're starting to see you more in that advisory role as opposed to just the technical role. Looking for clients who have reoccurring transactions are really a great place to start and showing them how to have smaller budgets to start taking control of something. But did I miss anything with that?
100% right. Yeah, no, you summarized it all really well.
And then is there any specific maybe software or platform that they need to be aware of to start implementing this as well?
Yeah, I get asked this question all the time too. Do I have to switch to a one of these vendors that have an online platform in order to be able to do this for my clients? The answer to that is no, you don't. I will say it makes it easier. And what I mean by that is if your client's using a Capital One or an Amex or a Chase card, really what you're trying to do is help them be more proactive. It's helping to control. You may not be able to get down to very specific budgets or set up virtual cards for them, but you can start having conversations with them before expenses happen to be able to talk about utilization and who potentially needs to have access. When it comes to utilizing the platforms, our biggest recommendations for our firms or clients is usually Ramp. Ramp and Bill, or Spend and Expense, are the two that we recommend to our clients first. Because they give a client a better visualization in an online platform for everything. It centralizes all the data. It puts it into where you can pull reports based off those projects or based off of those spends from the vendors. It allows you to be able to see who's uploaded receipts and who hasn't and who you need to follow up with. It gives visualization a lot more in depth too into how close are we to the budget that we have set on this project as well too. And so you can see that real time, which really changes the experience and the opportunity that you have. And so definitely software platforms make it a whole lot easier, but you don't have to use them in order to be able to get started.
And Dan, one of the things that you mentioned early on is that you work with a wide range of different industries. So you see your firm more as a generalist instead of having a niche. But it sounds like your firm also has a specialty with the spend management, which not everybody does. Do you find that people are coming to you because they want to take control of their budget and the spending, and that is something that's starting to differentiate you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We find with almost any new client that we have coming on is all of them want to have better control over their money. They want to have better control of what goes out, and how we can be able to help them do that. There was a study that was done by CPA.com and the AI CPA that actually asked over 100 small businesses what they really needed from their accountant, and one of it was proactive relationships regarding their spend. Accountants most often the times aren't providing these services. And so this is an area that we felt like we could provide a lot of value very quickly to our clients to be able to help them get better control. And so definitely it's an area that we've dove into. We provide varying different levels of service with it, from building very robust budgets and project tracking modules to just simple as, hey, you're an organization that wants to have better visualization. Let's create some reports and let's put some of these expenses on virtual cards so you don't have to worry about what's happening with them. Or let's see if we can consolidate some of these vendor spends that you have, and so that we're not paying for 25 different Adobe licenses when you really only need 13. And so that way you can kind of control and put yourself on business plans. And so we start very simple with a lot of our clients, but go very robust. And this is the part that's really nice about it, is it can be a very built out system, or it can be something that's just a lot more low touch, but still gives that client a lot of value up front.
And you also shared some examples of how to get started on the technical part of it. But what about if you're looking to talk to clients that you currently have and you want to start moving them in this direction? How do you start that conversation? Or what are some of the things that will grab their attention?
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that we always ask our clients that we have right now is, are we aligning with the goals of what you want to achieve? And what we do is we start diving into understanding, where are they trying to go? Are they trying to grow their business? Are they trying to build a lifestyle business? Are they trying to build something they can pass on as a legacy for their organization? And so this gives us an opportunity to have more discussion about the ins and outs and what's going on with their business. From there, we then have conversations about the people on their team. Who in your organization has access to spend money and who doesn't? Who should have access and who shouldn't? If you could put controls on those people so that they don't overspend, would that make your life easier? And would that allow your company to run more efficiently? And so we start having conversations about those things as well, to where we're taking actually away the pressure from the business owner from having to be a part of every transaction, to where they actually just have control over the system of what's going on. And that way the team can perform without having to have 25 phone conversations or text message, discussions about, can I spend this or can I not? And so those are really where we get started with our clients that already are reoccurring. We really want to understand more about what their goals and visions are. And then we start talking about the steps we can take in order to be able to help them to achieve those.
And part of what I'm hearing is how you roll this out to the business owner. And do you also guide the business owner on how to roll it out to their team so that they're on board also, and they're not feeling like they're being punished or taken away some freedoms?
Definitely. No, I love that you brought this up, because it's definitely one of the areas that we work with our clients very heavily on. We generally actually recommend that there's a champion in the organization that's not the business owner. And what we mean by that is the champion isn't the person who's deciding all the budgets and everything like that, but they're the power user. They're the person who really understands how to work, how to take pictures of the receipts, what it means for each employee. And they're someone we talk with on a regular basis to get feedback on areas that maybe are causing limitations. But with that, we have a conversation with as many people who are going to be touching the resources to be able to discuss how much more access they are actually going to have. Their budgets may be changing to where they feel like they have controls over each of those areas, where in the past they may not have had that, but they're going to be able to see where they're at in relationship to their budget. And it's going to be much more visual to them. They can now actually start controlling what's happening and what's not happening. And in situations, kind of going back to that marketing agency that I talked about earlier, one of the things that we were able to discuss with them once they started achieving better relationships internally and cutting cost is the organization had already determined what budgets they were spending on those projects. And so anything that the team was able to save, they ended up giving back a percentage of that to their teams as motivation for controlling cost. And it ended up creating an opportunity for those teams to get small wins and small bonuses on a short-term basis, instead of having to wait for annual discussions with it when everything was finalized and reconciled. And so those kind of conversations really change the way that those employees feel they can interact with the way that the organization is. And actually, most of the time makes them feel more empowered instead of restricted.
So part of what I'm hearing is that this is really a high value service. It takes you away from just the compliance side into more the advisory role. You're showing these business owners how to cut costs, which also is going to increase their profit margins. But the other part of it, as you mentioned, is having the team feel that they're empowered and that they're valued also. So because of the fact that this is maybe seen as a softer service, or the advisory part, how do you go ahead and start looking at the value of it and how you charge for the service?
Definitely. This is one of those areas that understanding your customer base is going to be very critical in how you go through it, but also too, to what level of involvement you want to play into it. We do, with some of our clients, we'll actually do setup fees that help us to be able to make sure that they get the platform set up correctly. If they don't want us to help maintain it for a long-term standpoint, we'll charge them a one-off fee so that we could be able to help them to make sure they implement it correctly. This really is a chance for you to dive deeper into the client, to show the value that you're creating. Most of the time, those actually turn into long-term engagements where we're maintaining it more on a monthly basis, which has been fantastic, because the clients really start to see not how complicated it is, but how important it is for you as their accountant to be involved and to be helping to coach them through the process and find areas that they can save. And so that's one of the areas that we start with some of our other clients. We come out the gate with this is a part of our proposal services, and we help them to implement, and then we help to keep the discussions very consistent, very regular. I always get asked what to charge, and I think that's one of the questions that is oftentimes very difficult to determine from my perspective or the way my firm's structured to yours. But I will say this. You can charge really, in my opinion, anywhere between $1,000 to $10,000 for an implementation. It really just depends on the level of involvement that you're putting into it. If you're building out robust budgets and details and providing training and everything else like that, there's a huge amount of investment you're putting in for that client to help them put themselves in better control and to help them to be able to have better management. That's a huge amount of time that you're spending for those. And I'm, of course, using small businesses because that's what we usually work with is the SMB space. If it's enterprise clients, it's going to be much greater than that because you're putting so much more time and energy. There's more departments and there's more people that you're going to touch. And the same thing can be said, though, about ongoing fees. Anywhere between $500 to $5,000 is not uncommon for helping a client to manage these types of things. It's the same, in essence, a lot of cases, the same as what you potentially were doing with managing their expense management, which is so much more after the fact, which is all that chasing of receipts that you've been doing historically. And so there's a lot you can do in that space, but there really is some good amount of fee structures that you can build into your client agreements with it.
And I just want to clarify, what I'm hearing is there's a fee or an investment for setting it up properly. It can go anywhere from 1 to 10,000, depending on the complexity and how much training is involved. When you were saying the ongoing maintenance fee of 500 to 5,000, is that per year or is that per month?
Yeah, definitely. In my opinion, it depends on how often you're touching it.
Okay.
So for our clients, we're usually quarterly or monthly on maintenance from that perspective. If it's a client who's running longer projects, in the organization, whether it's marketing or construction, quarterly sometimes is enough because then we come in and we set the framework of what needs to be done. And once a quarter, we review to make sure that it's in line with what expectations are. For organizations that are changing rapidly and that need a higher touch because things in their organizations are moving all the time, monthly billing is much more consistent with the types of service you should be offering. And so even to the point where you might be looking at it weekly to make sure that you're setting off projects and turning on new projects at an appropriate time to make sure that the team has resources. And so there's a lot of opportunity for different levels of frequency, and it all depends kind of on how much the client wants you to be involved or you want to be involved in with the client.
And that was the other thing that was coming up for me. You mentioned about the coaching part of them through the process. Do you have some type of process or protocol as to how often you're meeting with them to start discussing the financials and the spend management with your clients?
Yeah, definitely. When we first get started, we're trying to have a couple of conversations within the first couple of weeks. So we may actually have 2 different discussions in week 1, maybe even in week 2 or week 3. The biggest part is we're trying to get more understanding of how their business is operating with their current spend strategy. This allows us to be able to also start evaluating best recommendations and best practices for the client. And so putting extra time up front is really critical to it. In the ongoing space, it really just depends on the interaction that the client is needing. If they're an organization that really doesn't have a lot of change in their expenses as it goes out, you don't need to meet with them on a weekly basis around this. You can do it less frequently because it's not necessarily needed for you to be able to make changes or adjustments or make tweaks to card values or things like that. And so determining where the flexibility is needed with the client or what type of impact they need from you is really critical. The biggest part, though, from the value add process with this is your job is not just to maintain a budget. That's not what I'm trying to suggest with this space at all. It's about having the conversation with the client on how they can improve, as you mentioned before, the bottom line, because that's really the goal that we have is to be able to help them to be able to make more money, get the benefits and goals that they're looking for. And so as you're observing and monitoring the spending habits of the organization, your job is to now start talking with your clients about those things, to have discussions about where they potentially can save. Do they have the same vendors in 5 different areas of their business? Can they consolidate? Is one sector of their business using Asana and the other one's using ClickUp? Does it make sense to compartmentalize the project management tool that they're using so that there's better communication, but also so that there's financial savings. You can start looking at those things and it starts to change the conversations you have with your clients and bring them much more awareness to how they can improve their business and where they can save money and also save time.
Dan, I so appreciate our conversation. I've learned, I think that you had light bulb moments for other people that are joining us today. And some of the things that we covered is how to be able to boost a client's profitability, to offer more strategic advice, and generate a new revenue stream for your firm, as well as expand your service offerings. So Dan, if somebody wanted to find out more about what you're doing with IgniteSpot Accounting, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, definitely. Two best places for me directly are on LinkedIn or on Twitter. I'm Dan Luthi on LinkedIn. If you find the Dan Luthi that has the little bear at the front of it, that's me, because there's a few of them out there. And then on Twitter, I'm just Dan Luthi. If you want to learn a little bit more about IgniteSpot, ignitespot.com is the best place to find more context around our pricing strategy, the types of services that we offer, and how we potentially can help your business grow.
Dan, thank you so much. And I appreciate everybody else that has stopped working in their business to join us to work on their business, getting these advanced moves. This is Lauren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, showing accounting firm owners how to double their income working half the time.